The alarm blared through the dimly lit corridors of the ISV Prometheus, jolting Dr. Ethan Sorensen from his restless sleep. He rubbed his eyes and glanced at the holographic display beside his bunk. Mission briefing, 0600 hours. Ethan quickly donned his uniform and made his way to the briefing room, where his team had already assembled. Captain Mikhail Volkov stood at the head of the table, his stern gaze fixed on the holographic star map before him. "Gentlemen," Mikhail began, "we've received a distress signal from an unexplored sector of space. The signal is unlike anything we've encountered before, and Command believes it may be of alien origin." Alec Novak, the team's tech expert, leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Alien origin. Do you think it could be related to the rumors of an ancient civilization that once inhabited this region? Dr. Kenji Sato, the ship's medic and exobiologist, shook his head. "Those are just myths, Alec. There's no concrete evidence to support the existence of such a civilization." Ethan cleared his throat. "Regardless of its origin, we have a responsibility to investigate the signal. If there's even a chance of discovering something groundbreaking, we owe it to ourselves and to humanity to pursue it." Mikhail nodded in agreement. "Dr. Sorensen is right. We'll set a course for the signal's coordinates immediately. Prepare yourselves and your equipment. We don't know what we'll find out there." As the team dispersed to make their preparations, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation that had settled in his gut. He had dedicated his life to the study of xenoarchaeology, and the prospect of uncovering an alien civilization was both thrilling and daunting. The journey to the signal's origin was long and arduous, taking the Prometheus deep into uncharted space. The crew worked tirelessly to maintain the ship and keep their spirits high, but the isolation and uncertainty began to take their toll. Finally, after weeks of travel, the Prometheus emerged from hyperspace at the designated coordinates. The viewscreen filled with the image of a massive, derelict spacecraft, its hull pockmarked with the scars of countless eons. "My God," Ethan breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's incredible." Alec let out a low whistle. "That thing is enormous. It must be at least 10 times the size of the Prometheus." Mikhail leaned forward, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Scan for any signs of life or activity." Kenji shook his head. "No life signs detected, Captain. The ship appears to be abandoned." Ethan felt a thrill of excitement run down his spine. "We have to get a closer look. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." Mikhail hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Agreed, but we proceed with caution. Novak, prepare a drone for a preliminary scan of the exterior. Sorensen, Sato, gear up for an EVA. I want a full assessment of the ship's condition before we even think about setting foot inside." The team sprang into action, each member focused on their assigned tasks. Ethan and Kenji donned their EVA suits and made their way to the airlock, while Alec prepped the scanning drone. As the airlock doors hissed open, Ethan felt a moment of trepidation. The alien ship loomed before them, its secrets waiting to be uncovered. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The exterior of the ship was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Strange, organic curves melded with harsh, angular lines, creating a dizzying patchwork of alien architecture. The hull was scarred and pitted, bearing the marks of untold eons of exposure to the harsh vacuum of space. Kenji's voice crackled over the comm. "I'm picking up some unusual readings from the ship's surface. It's almost as if the hull is... Ethan's eyes widened in shock as he saw a section of the hull begin to move, as though it were alive. "Watch out!" he cried, grabbing Kenji and pulling him back, just as a tendril of living metal lashed out at them. The two men stumbled back, their hearts racing. "What the hell was that?" Kenji gasped. Ethan shook his head, his mind reeling. "I don't know, but I don't think this ship is as dead as we thought." Chapter 2. Secrets of the Juggernaut. "Captain, we need to get inside that ship," Ethan insisted, his voice still shaking from the encounter with the living metal. "If there's any chance of uncovering the secrets of this alien civilization, we have to take it." Mikhail's brow furrowed as he considered Ethan's words. "I understand your eagerness, Dr. Sorensen, but we can't afford to take any unnecessary risks. We'll proceed, but with extreme caution." The team regrouped and began to formulate a plan to enter the alien juggernaut. Alec Novak, the tech expert, scanned the ship's exterior for any potential entry points. "I think I've found something," Alec announced, his eyes glued to the readout on his handheld device. "There's an airlock on the starboard side that seems to be intact. If we can get it open, we should be able to access the interior." Ethan nodded, his heart pounding with anticipation. "Let's suit up and get over there. Every moment we waste is another moment we could be learning about this incredible discovery." The team donned their EVA suits once more and made their way to the airlock. Alec worked quickly to hack into the ancient locking mechanism, his fingers flying over the alien technology with a deftness born of years of experience. With a hiss of pressurized air, the airlock door slid open, revealing a dark, cavernous interior. Ethan and the others stepped inside, their suit lights illuminating the strange, twisted corridors of the alien ship. "This is incredible," Kenji breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "The architecture is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost organic in nature." As they made their way deeper into the ship, they began to discover remnants of the alien civilization that had once called it home. Strange, ethereal artifacts littered the corridors, their purposes and origins a mystery. "Look at this," Ethan said, holding up a small crystalline device. "It seems to be some kind of data storage unit. If we can find a way to access its contents, it could give us a glimpse into the history and culture of these beings." Alec took the device from Ethan and examined it closely. "I might be able to rig up an interface using our own technology. Give me a few minutes to work on it." As Alec tinkered with the device, the rest of the team continued to explore the ship's interior. They marveled at the advanced technology that seemed to be woven into every surface, from the walls themselves to the strange glowing consoles that dotted the corridors. Suddenly, a triumphant shout echoed through the comm. "I've got it!" Alec exclaimed. "I managed to power up the device, and it's displaying some kind of holographic map of the ship's interior." The team gathered around as Alec projected the map into the air before them. It was a dizzying array of twisting corridors and cavernous chambers, each one labeled with strange alien glyphs. "This is our key to unlocking the secrets of the Juggernaut," Ethan said, his voice hushed with reverence. "With this map, we can explore every inch of the ship and uncover the truth about the beings who built it." But as they stood there, marveling at the holographic display, a strange sound began to echo through the corridors. It was a low, pulsing hum that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. "What is that?" Kenji asked, his voice tight with tension. Before anyone could respond, the sound began to grow louder, and the ship itself seemed to shudder and groan around them. The team's equipment began to flicker and malfunction, the displays on their suits going haywire. "Something's wrong," Mikhail said, his voice grave. "We need to get out of here, now." But even as they turned to make their way back to the airlock, the sound continued to build, and the ship began to shake more violently. Ethan felt a sense of dread wash over him as he realized that they may have awakened something ancient and powerful, something that had been waiting for them all along. Chapter 3. The Descent. The team raced through the twisting corridors of the alien juggernaut, their hearts pounding in their chests as they tried to outrun the strange, pulsing energy that seemed to be chasing them. Ethan clutched the holographic map in his hand, his eyes darting back and forth as he tried to navigate the labyrinthine ship. "There!" he shouted, pointing to a large chamber that seemed to be at the very heart of the juggernaut. "That's where we need to go. If there are any answers to be found, they'll be there." Mikhail nodded grimly, his jaw set with determination. "Lead the way, Dr. Sorensen. But everyone, stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into." As they made their way deeper into the ship, the corridors began to change. The organic curves and twisting passageways gave way to harsh, angular lines and cold metallic surfaces. The air grew thick and heavy, and a strange, acrid smell filled their nostrils. "I don't like this," Kenji muttered, his hand resting on the butt of his sidearm. "It feels like we're descending into the belly of the beast." Alec nodded in agreement, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "I've never seen technology like this before. It's beyond anything we've ever encountered." Suddenly, the corridor opened up into a massive, cavernous chamber. At the center of the room stood a towering alien device, its surface covered in strange, glowing symbols and pulsing with an eerie, bluish light. "My God," Ethan breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "What is it?" Mikhail stepped forward, his hand outstretched as if to touch the device. "I don't know, but I can feel the power emanating from it. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before." As the team began to spread out and explore the chamber, Alec made his way over to the device. He ran his fingers over the symbols, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I think I might be able to interface with it," he said, his voice tight with excitement. "If I can just figure out the right combination." But as Alec worked, a sudden, piercing scream echoed through the chamber. Ethan whirled around, his heart in his throat, to see Kenji staring at an empty spot on the floor, his face pale with shock. "Where's Mikhail?" Kenji asked, his voice shaking. "He was right here a moment ago, and now he's gone." Ethan and Alec exchanged a glance, their eyes wide with fear. "He can't have just vanished," Ethan said, his mind racing. "There must be some explanation." But as they searched the chamber, there was no sign of Mikhail. It was as if he had simply disappeared into thin air. "We need to find him," Kenji insisted, his voice rising with panic. "He could be in danger." Ethan nodded, his jaw set with determination. "We'll split up and search the ship. Alec, you stay here and keep working on that device. See if you can find anything that might help us locate Mikhail." As Ethan and Kenji made their way back into the twisting corridors of the juggernaut, a sense of dread began to settle over them. The ship seemed to pulse and throb around them, as if it were alive and aware of their presence. "I don't like this, Ethan," Kenji said, his voice tight with tension. "It feels like the ship is toying with us, like it's leading us somewhere." Ethan nodded grimly, his hand resting on the butt of his sidearm. "We have to keep going. Mikhail is counting on us." But as they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a horrifying sight. There, lying in a pool of his own blood, was Mikhail. His body was twisted and broken, his face frozen in a rictus of terror. "No!" Kenji whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "This can't be happening." Ethan knelt down beside Mikhail's body, his mind reeling with shock and grief. "What could have done this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. But before Kenji could respond, a low, guttural growl echoed through the corridor behind them. They turned slowly, their hearts pounding in their chests, to see a creature unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was a twisted, misshapen thing, all teeth and claws, and pulsing, sickly flesh. And it was coming straight for them. Chapter 4. Revelations. Ethan and Kenji sprinted through the narrow, winding corridors of the alien juggernaut, their hearts pounding in their chests as they tried to outrun the twisted creature that pursued them. The sound of its guttural growls and the scrape of its claws against the metal floor echoed through the ship, spurring them on to greater speeds. "We need to find Alec," Ethan shouted, his voice ragged with exertion. "He might be our only hope of getting out of here alive." Kenji nodded grimly, his face pale with fear. "I just hope we're not too late." As they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with a figure stumbling towards them. It was Mikhail, his face twisted in a rictus of pain and his eyes wild with terror. "Mikhail!" Ethan exclaimed, reaching out to steady the captain. "What happened to you? We thought you were dead." But Mikhail shook off Ethan's hand, his movements erratic and jerky. "Dead? No, not dead. Changed. Transformed. The ship, it spoke to me. Showed me things. Terrible things." Kenji and Ethan exchanged a worried glance. "Mikhail, you're not making any sense," Kenji said, his voice gentle but firm. "We need to get you back to the central chamber, to Alec. He might be able to help you." But Mikhail let out a crazed laugh, his eyes rolling back in his head. "Help me? No one can help me now. The ship, it's alive. It's been waiting for us, waiting to make us like them." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine at Mikhail's words. "Like who, Mikhail? The aliens who built this ship?" Mikhail nodded, his face contorting in a grotesque smile. "Yes, the builders. They're still here, waiting, watching. And now they've chosen me to join them." With a sudden, violent convulsion, Mikhail collapsed to the floor, his body twisting and writhing in agony. Ethan and Kenji watched in horror as his flesh began to ripple and change, his bones cracking and reforming into something inhuman. "We have to go," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Now." They turned and ran, leaving Mikhail's twisted form behind them. As they raced back towards the central chamber, Ethan's mind reeled with the implications of what they had just witnessed. If the aliens who had built this ship were still alive, still watching them, then they were all in grave danger. They burst into the central chamber, startling Alec from his work on the alien device. "Ethan? Kenji? What's going on? Where's Mikhail?" Ethan shook his head, his face grim. "Mikhail's gone. The ship, it changed him, turned him into something else." Alec's eyes widened in horror. "My God, I think I know what happened to him. I've been going through the data from the device and I found something. A record of what happened to the aliens who built this ship." Kenji stepped forward, his face pale. "What did you find, Alec?" Alec swallowed hard, his voice shaking. The aliens, they were experimenting with some kind of genetic modification technology, trying to make themselves stronger, smarter, more resilient, but something went wrong. The modifications, they got out of control, started changing them in ways they couldn't predict. Ethan felt a sense of dread settle over him. So what happened to them? Alec shook his head, his eyes haunted. They changed, became something else, something inhuman. And then they turned on each other. The records show a massive civil war that tore their civilization apart. In the end, there were no survivors. Kenji let out a shaky breath. And now the same thing is happening to us. The ship, it's changing us, just like it changed them. Ethan clenched his fists, his mind racing. We have to find a way out of here, before it's too late. But even as he spoke, a low, guttural growl echoed through the chamber. They turned to see a group of twisted, misshapen creatures shambling towards them, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Run!" Ethan shouted, grabbing Alec and Kenji by the arms and dragging them towards the exit. "We have to run!" As they fled through the twisting corridors of the ship, Ethan's mind raced with the implications of what they had discovered. The alien juggernaut was not simply a derelict vessel, but a living, breathing entity that was hell-bent on their destruction. And if they didn't find a way to escape soon, they would all suffer the same fate as the creatures that now hunted them through the halls of the ship. Chapter 5. Escape. The twisted creatures pursued Ethan, Alec, and Kenji through the winding corridors of the alien juggernaut, their inhuman howls echoing off the metallic walls. The three men ran for their lives, their hearts pounding in their chests as they desperately sought a way out of the nightmare that had engulfed them. "We need a plan," Alec shouted, his voice ragged with exertion. "We can't just keep running blindly." Ethan nodded grimly, his mind racing. "We have to get back to the central chamber. The alien device, it might be our only hope of escaping this ship." Kenji glanced over his shoulder, his eyes widening in horror as he saw the creatures gaining on them. "Whatever we do, we need to do it fast. They're getting closer." They rounded a corner and found themselves back in the central chamber, the alien device looming before them like a beacon of hope. Ethan raced over to it, his fingers flying over the controls as he tried to decipher its secrets. Come on," he muttered, his brow furrowed in concentration. "There has to be something here that can help us." Suddenly, the device lit up with a blinding flash of light, and a holographic image appeared before them. It was a map of the juggernaut, with a pulsing red dot indicating their current location. "Look!" Alec exclaimed, pointing to a glowing blue line that snaked its way through the ship. "That must be a way out." Ethan nodded, his eyes narrowing in determination. "We need to follow that path. It's our only chance." But before they could take a step, the twisted creatures burst into the chamber, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. Kenji let out a cry of terror as one of the creatures lunged at him, its claws slashing through the air. Ethan grabbed a nearby metal pipe and swung it with all his might, striking the creature across the face and sending it stumbling backward. "Run!" he shouted, motioning for the others to follow him. They raced through the corridors, following the glowing blue line on the holographic map. The creatures pursued them relentlessly, their howls growing louder and more frenzied with each passing moment. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a dead end. The blue line on the map ended abruptly, and there was no way forward. "No," Alec whispered, his voice choked with despair. "This can't be happening." But Ethan refused to give up. He turned to face the creatures, his jaw set with determination. "Alec, Kenji, when I give the signal, I want you to run. Don't look back. Just run as fast as you can." Kenji shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "We can't leave you behind, Ethan. We won't." Ethan smiled sadly, his eyes filled with a grim resolve. "You have to. It's the only way." He turned back to the creatures, raising the metal pipe like a club. "Come on, you bastards! Come and get me!" The creatures lunged forward, their claws outstretched. Ethan met them head-on, swinging the pipe with all his might. He managed to take down 2 of the creatures before the others overwhelmed him, their teeth and claws tearing into his flesh. "Now!" he shouted, his voice ragged with pain. "Run!" Alec and Kenji hesitated for a moment, their hearts breaking at the sight of their friend's sacrifice, but they knew they had no choice. They turned and ran, their feet pounding against the metal floor as they raced towards the exit. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of Ethan's battle with the creatures, his cries of pain and defiance echoing through the corridors. And then, suddenly, there was silence. They burst out of the juggernaut and into the airlock, their chests heaving with exertion. Alec slammed his hand against the controls, sealing the door behind them. For a long moment, they stood there in silence, their hearts heavy with grief and loss. Ethan had given his life to save them, and they knew they would never forget his bravery. But as they looked out the airlock window, they saw something that filled them with a sense of hope. The ISV Prometheus was waiting for them, its lights shining like a beacon in the darkness of space. They had escaped the nightmare of the alien juggernaut, but they knew that their journey was far from over. There were still so many questions left unanswered, so many mysteries left unsolved. But for now, they were alive, and that was enough.